Habari Gani, what's the news? Ujima, that's the news. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, and hi mom. So, welcome back. We're talking about Ujima today, which is collective work and responsibility. Let's read the definition. To build and maintain our community together and make our community's problems our problems and to solve them together. Love. So today's song for reflection is Sounds of Blackness. I do really want to read you the lyrics for this. When in the midst of sorrow, you can't see up when looking down, a brighter day tomorrow will bring. You hear the voice of reason telling you this can never be done. No matter how hard reality seems, just hold on to your dreams. Yeah. And I just wanted to read that because I feel like it ties into that collective work and responsibility piece, especially if we're considering like making our community's problems our problems and solving them together. It almost floats back to, was it day 1 or day 2? I think it was Kuji Chagalia, like just yesterday. Like it floats back to us, it not just being about us, if that makes sense. So you holding on to your dreams or holding on to whatever God put into your heart, or holding on to hope, love, peace, seeing the best in people, things like that. Like, that not just being about you, it serves the collective. Yeah. So, let me, I was just like, yeah, like I got it, like in my brain. So, the thought for today is from Isabel Wilkerson from The Warmth of Other Suns. And let me just read a little bit about that book too. So this book, The Warmth of Other Suns, is really about the Great Migration. Like it's a collection of untold stories. And the Great Migration, if you don't know what that is, it is something that happened in American history in which 6 million black citizens fled the South for the North and the West in search of a better life, following World War One. Essentially, it's between like World War One and 1970, approximately. And so she follows a couple, well, 3 protagonists in an interwoven story and describing like this experience and their lives and how their lives change. So check it out. So next we have a quote from that book. Over the decades, perhaps the wrong questions have been asked about the Great Migration. Perhaps it is not a question of whether the migrants brought good or ill to the cities they fled, or were pushed or pulled to their destinations, but a question of how they summoned the courage to leave in the first place, or how they found the will to press beyond the forces against them and the faith in a country that had rejected them for so long. By their actions, they did not dream the American dream. They willed it into being by a definition of their own choosing. They did not ask to be accepted, but declared themselves the Americans that perhaps few others recognized, but that they had always been deep within their hearts. Love. Okay, so I'm gonna get into the recipe. So the recipe for today is Caribbean sorrel, and so this is a hibiscus type drink, also known as Bissap Rouge if you're Senegalese, but it's also drunk in West Africa, so not just the Caribbean. Excited. So for the kids activity, there's this reminder that the third principle of Kwanzaa, as we're talking about today, is Ujima. It reminds us that helping each other and working together to solve problems is important. So, one thing that they point out in this activity, and I'll show it, is this painting, and they want you to count like how many people are in the painting. But I think what's super important about it and different about it is that a lot of the people kind of blend together. Like, you can almost like, you perceive one and it could be actually two people if you kind of like look at this painting. And they ask you what the people are in the painting are doing and how they're practicing Ujima. And in my head, like looking at this, it's the act of coming together. And it looks like because you can be so close with one another, it also just seems like you can depend on people in this photo. Like, in this picture actually, and in the other picture actually featured for the children's activity, the people in these pictures are marching. When groups of people march to protest something that they feel is unfair, they are working together to solve a problem. When was a time you worked with others to make a positive change? For me, I had to think about it because I'm considering earlier this year when I was spending time in Cuba, we had the opportunity because of okay, I was like, let me see if I can just break it down for you. Because basically the US is embarking on its own version, I would say, of economic terrorism. So, and the way that shows up is with the blockade for Cuba. So, with the blockade, they don't have access to certain things. They aren't welcome to be traded with when it comes to certain countries, things like that. What happened is back in the 1960s, I want to say, the US basically is like, we're not going to trade with you, and we're going to basically essentially bully anybody else that does. So, what we ended up doing is, while we are going there to learn from the citizens that live there, we were on a cultural research tour, and so while we were there in our cultural research mode, we also brought things that aren't necessarily available there, and yeah, just so people could have things. So, for example, for me, there was an interest in hair products and things, and so that's what I brought. Like, I was like, boom. And I feel like lending that which we're like not using to one another, and not just lending but giving, I feel like that's a great way to embark on Ujima, like collective work and responsibility, whether that's giving your time, giving hair products. It's a key and I think overlooked way, because while we can give money, there's so much more to give, including time, speaking up about what's going on in Cuba, including time, speaking up what's going on in other countries and how people are being affected by something, or like something that would be encouraging for people to be able to have, things like that, and like spreading the news. I just think it's just as important.